What a week on Planet Sussex. Harry back in Britain for tea with the King, while busy showing us all what an amazing guy he is, visiting charities, selflessly donating £1 million to the BBC's Children in Need, and making jokes about the trouble with brothers. Oh, how William must have laughed. Meanwhile, over in California, Meghan's baffling brand, as ever, continued to hawk scam jam, cookie dough, wine, and exciting new jars of marmalade, as we all asked, who the hell is buying this mundane range of astronomically priced humdrum domestic products? The $9 marmalade, by the way, has earned the distinction of becoming the first ever, as ever, offering not to sell out within minutes. In fact, despite gushing Instagram posts describing it as golden and fragrant, with a lively zest that lingers and a refined sweetness. So I hope you understand that. Our big moment, meanwhile, is going to be the release of the Epstein documents by Democrats on the House Oversight Committee over there in Washington. This, of course, contained lots of eulogies, birthday greetings to Jeffrey Epstein, the late, ungreat, dead paedophile. Here's one. This is Peter Mandelson's. Peter Mandelson, for those of you in America and around the world, he was our ambassador in America until today, when he was fired because of these messages. Meanwhile, one of the other messages, birthday greetings, this was called Jeffrey Epstein's 50th birthday book. One of the other greetings, this is Donald Trump's, in the, as you can see, the outline of a nude woman. Allegedly, there's his alleged signature. Donald Trump says that this is a fake. Peter Mandelson, meanwhile, senior politician over here, as I say, Britain's top diplomat, the ambassador to America, massive role, which he had until today. Well, Daz, thank you very much, and you should be worried for us. Yeah. We're very worried for ourselves because we have a government, we have a prime minister who is eroding our freedom of speech. I mean, for God's sake, there's a comedy writer called Graham Linehan who's actually been hounded out of this country. He's been cancelled because he campaigned against the trans lobby. And he got cancelled. He used to be very successful. So he's gone to America. He wants to live there. He came back last week, I think it was, and was arrested at the airport, at Heathrow Airport here in London. He was arrested by 5 armed cops. What was he arrested for? Troublesome tweets about trans people that he posted while he was in America. Now, Graham Linehan is Irish. Do you reckon it's that, Ash? Because I agree with Samara. I think he's trying to get mates with his dad again to get some cash out of him. He wants the Bank of Dad to reopen. Of course, King Charles famously, when he was Prince Charles, told the Queen, "I am not an ATM machine." I think Harry thinks he still is. Do you reckon he's after his dad's cash?
Well, yeah, of course he is, but he's got a very low IQ, as a lot of royals have, because it's a good advert against cousin marriage, isn't it? Because if you go back, they're all intermingling, and this is what
interbred, I think is the word.
Interbred, yeah, you know, and this, you get a low IQ, so he thinks he's going to be all right. And the thing is, he's patching it up with King Prince Charles, and why is he doing that? For a bit of cash? But it's because William probably thinks, well, you know, he should see his dad. He might not have long left. We don't know how ill he is, but I don't think he needs to patch it up with William, really, because he's the future, and that's never going to happen after what he was.
Well, no, I mean, I think that the fact that he saw his dad but didn't see William, that is a picture that paints 1,000 words.
Did they pat him down for a wire as well?
Yeah. No, definitely not. Right, let's have another question.
The government wasted £25 million testing out a new nationwide emergency alarm on Sunday that failed. If you were given £25 million, what would you spend it on to make the world better? Oh, God, this is triggering.
This is it.
We better get in the panic room.
I was actually in a pub having lunch with a couple of friends. And I knew it was going to happen, but then I'd completely forgotten. And suddenly the pub's like this kind of cacophony. So in the pub I was in, this is what it sounded like. It did work, but all over the country it didn't work. What would I do? 25 million quid. I would spend it to make the world better.
I'd buy a house on the lake and leave.
Yeah, I'd give it to myself so that I could tour the world, making it better. What would you say?
But I think that's really because Meghan's pots of jam are not selling out. And Harry can't see a future. It was interesting to see him dropping by and doing these quote-unquote royal activities. That's what he's born to do. Yeah. That's what he's bred for.
He's got nothing else he can do. That's all these people can do is visit charities. But I'd love to have been a fly on the wall at Clarence House when Harry popped in for 54 minutes. Ash, I reckon it'd be funny if they just had a massive great row, wouldn't it? The king goes, "What did you say about me in that interview? I didn't say that. You did! I've had enough of you!"
Come at him with the dog bowl.
Yeah, but maybe they had a 54-minute blazing row.
You know, he accused him of being racist. I think it's over, and I think also you got to think of the wives. If you think about it, Meghan's never going to be nice to Kate, so why William's got to be loyal to her as well. So it's just the royal family and his wife. Why would he bother? And probably Harry just couldn't find the right door for William. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's right. This week, as I said earlier, we've got an underground subway tube train strike. And that's like sucking the lifeblood out of London. Nobody can get around. I mean, no word of a lie. I mean, we're all having terrible trouble. My journey to work usually takes me about half an hour. It's taking me 90 minutes, 2 hours at the moment. Last night, I was coming home from work, 11 p.m. I was going, I got a taxi. I was going past a bus stop. There's about 300 people still waiting for buses to get home because all the buses are absolutely packed out. No one can get on them. Now, those 300 people, 11 p.m., where do they live? When are they going to get home?
Meant to be a world-class city. Yeah. I mean, where's Sadiq Khan in all this, making deals with unions?
Yeah, our mayor, Gabby, Sadiq Kant, as he's called, has turned this city into a very dangerous place, and he's ruining it.
But, she's right to be terrified, by the way.
Yeah. Be careful, Gabby, when you come in. I mean, don't get me wrong.
I just bought Meghan Markle's marmalade, and it was rubbish. What would you like to see her sell in her shop next?
Toilet rolls.
Yes.
Trust me, the way she's going.
With Harry and Meghan's face.
Yeah, with Harry and Meghan's face on the toilet roll.
We'd all want
Trust me, the way she's going, that's going to be next. I mean, it's like going into like a hardware store or something.
I wanted to do like a social mountaineering book about how to work your way up to the top from £5 D-list actress to I guess Meghan Markle.
Yeah, if you were going to buy like jam and stuff like that, would you get it from As Ever, or would you go more upmarket and go to 7-Eleven?
Exactly. They keep going into these crazy industries like producing television and consumer goods that they know nothing about.
I know all of you excellent, lovely viewers around the world are kind enough to send us lots and lots of messages. Let me know what you think. I'm just fascinated by As Ever's range of products. Now, William is basically saying, you insult my wife and you can get out of my life. Yeah, exactly. I mean, excuse the language, but essentially what William said to Harry, not personally, but in effect during this 4-day trip to Britain was F you. You're not speaking to my wife like that and getting away with it. I never want to speak to you again. The king is a well-known softy at heart. He is a much less strong-willed character than William.
And he's not well, he probably thinks, and William will probably think, well, you should see his dad.
It's his son.
It's his son, isn't
but
it?
Don't make no mistake, the king too is furious about what Harry said about Camilla, the villain of the story.
That's why I only got 50 minutes with him in about 2 or 3 years.
If you think about it, Samara, that is, as Ash quite rightly says, 19 months it is since they saw each other last. That was when February last year, he flew back unannounced straight after the king's cancer diagnosis.
He's got a packed schedule this week. He's going to be out and about. We saw him today at a women's center with the Princess of Wales. And I think Prince William is trying to protect his peace and protect his wife. She had a horrible year last year. She had a horrible week last week because of all the nasty people online discussing her physical appearance. And he just knows that Prince Harry brings drama.
Yeah, and as I was just saying to Ash, Samara, I think the fact that he did in the end, have this 54-minute tea party with his dad, but didn't go anywhere near Prince William, or William wouldn't have him anywhere near him. When I say that, I mean geographically they came very close.
Yeah.
So near yet so far.
Yes.
But the fact he saw the king and not William only underlines just how bitter the brotherly feud is.
I think what William's trying to do is protect himself in this instance. He's got a sick wife, he's got a sick dad. He's the one who's been holding down the fort all this time. While
He's going to need a lot of good luck to heal this rift, isn't he? This is the thing, Samara, about Prince Harry. I think he's a very shallow man. He's got no depth, he's got no hinterland, and he doesn't realise that the behaviour that he has brought about during the last 5 years, his antics, slinging grenades across the Atlantic at the royal family, calling his dad a racist, calling Kate a racist, calling them all mean-spirited, calling us all slave drivers, writing that awful book, that interview with Oprah Winfrey. He just thinks, well, that's in the past, if I come and smile and shake a few hands and give some money to charity, everyone will forgive and forget. They won't, will they?
No, the list goes on and on and on. I don't think good luck could help this man, honestly. I really think that it's over, that family relationship. Yes, they met, but that doesn't mean anything. The king is a very good, willing man. He would have met his own son if his son had asked to, but it's fair weather Harry, that's what it is. When things are going down the toilet for him, he's very happy to go back to little daddy and try and ask for some coins.
This happened actually, as we're recording this, last night when I was doing my show, The Political Asylum, on Talk over here in Britain. And we have to wear these ear pieces in our ears.
Yeah, the buds.
And in the middle of the show, there's a sort of rubber covering. The rubber covering on one of mine just fell into my eardrum. If you're interested, it's still there.
You actually cannot see it.
Oh no.
I cannot see it.
Well, it must be down there then. I can't go on like this.
You should have gone through the throat.
Just FYI, I mean, as a producer, it's worst nightmare to have a deaf host and a dead, very prolific figure.
So how far has it travelled? We should have a little map showing where it is now.
Well, I don't really know because it's still in there.
No,
this was last night.
You cannot see it.
Maybe you'll pass it.
Yeah, it might.
Look at this.
In the morning.
Look at this.
It's going to make its way into the brain.
Do you want to know why? It's because we're very childish people. We're very immature. But we won't be stopping any of that. Ash.
They're a very childish couple. This is from Tammy Wanless.
It was the homecoming no one really asked for. Prince Harry, once the crown's golden rebel, now the self-exiled Duke of Discontent, touched down in the UK without his wife, without his children, and most notably, without an invitation. No grand reception, no blue lights, no royal escort. Just a London hotel booking under a commoner's name. Instead of Windsor or Kensington, Harry checked into the Royal Lancaster Hotel, a fancy enough place for celebrities and business types, sure, but hardly fit for a prince trying to claw back some royal relevance. And the name? Royal Lancaster. Maybe a cruel joke, maybe a symbolic nod to a title long faded in meaning. Either way, it wasn't Clarence House. It wasn't Buckingham Palace. It wasn't home. From the start, it was clear this trip wasn't about family. It was about optics, damage control. A solo tour, carefully staged to present Harry as the generous, misunderstood hero, joking with kids, shaking hands with veterans, and most conveniently of all, pledging a massive $1.1 million to children in need. The headlines practically wrote themselves. Prince Harry donates to charity, but the subtext was screaming louder. Desperation. Back in California, Meghan Markle remained behind. Officially, she had other engagements. Unofficially, she had a floundering brand to rescue. Her absence was as loud as Harry's arrival. For a couple who once claimed to be inseparable, this sudden split screen was telling. Was Meghan distancing herself from Harry's failure to reconcile with the royals? Or was this all part of the plan? And then there's the question on everyone's mind. Why now? Why return after 19 months of silence, scandal, and public mudslinging? Why reappear just as the as ever product line nosedives and Netflix seems to be slamming the brakes? Why hold a tepid tea time with the king when his health is under constant speculation? Because when the palace doors slammed shut, Montecito's windows started to rattle. This was no heartfelt family visit. This was a calculated play, a photo op dressed up as redemption. And as Harry moved from hotel suite to charity event, flashing that signature smile, the public couldn't help but notice. Something felt off, and something cold, detached, manufactured. Because the truth is, Harry didn't come back to make peace. He came back to reclaim power. But he wasn't ready for what or who was waiting behind the palace gates. And what happened next at Clarence House left the world stunned. After 19 months of icy silence and global scandal, Prince Harry finally secured a sit-down with his father. But let's not romanticize it. This wasn't some epic royal reconciliation. It was a lukewarm, awkward tea time that barely lasted 54 minutes, not even an hour. No welcome at Buckingham, no private visit to Sandringham. Instead, Clarence House, King Charles's London residence, known more for duty than affection, was the backdrop for this strained reunion. Cameras kept at bay. No royal photographers. No smiling portraits. Just whispers, stiff body language. And one key fact, the clock was ticking. This wasn't a father eagerly embracing a prodigal son. It was a monarch fulfilling an obligation, if not reluctantly, then certainly cautiously. Because behind every teacup and pleasantry, there was something unspoken: distrust. Charles may be a soft-hearted king, but he's not blind. The last time Harry spoke freely about his family, it ended up on Oprah, and in a best-selling book, and in a Netflix docuseries viewed by millions. In Harry's world, even the most private royal conversations seemed to come with a record button. So what exactly was said in those 54 minutes? No official statements, no insider leaks, yet, but speculation exploded. Some insiders hinted Harry came bearing apologies. Others said he came with an agenda. And a few boldly claimed he came for cash. Yes, the Bank of Dad theory. It's not new, but it resurfaced with force. Rumors swirled that Harry's UK visit wasn't timed around any royal duty, but rather around his personal finances. With Meghan's as ever brand crumbling and Hollywood enthusiasm for the Sussexes drying up, some say Harry returned with an empty wallet and open hands. But Charles wasn't alone in that house. He had his advisors, his guards, his memories of being labeled a cold, unfeeling father by his own son in Spare. And worst of all, his recollection of Camilla being branded the villain of the story. For a man known to be emotionally sensitive, that wound runs deep. So maybe 54 minutes was generous. And just as quickly as he arrived, Harry was gone. No lunch, no walk in the garden, no shared photo op for the world to see. Just a brief exit, followed by another surprise appearance at a charity event, as if nothing had just happened. But everything had. Because here's the brutal truth. In under an hour, King Charles may have closed a door that can't be reopened. Not forever, but perhaps for the foreseeable future. And as Harry smiled for the cameras later that day, some noticed his eyes looked hollow, as if he didn't get what he came for, as if the tea had gone cold long before the conversation ended. And where was Camilla during all this? Nowhere to be seen. Where was William? Even closer, but much, much further away. Because while Charles may have granted 54 minutes, someone else refused even 54 seconds. And that silence may be louder than anything Harry heard that day. They were once the Royal Golden Boys, the inseparable brothers, walking side by side behind their mother's coffin, bound by grief and duty. But on this latest UK trip, Prince Harry came within 7 miles of Prince William, and never got closer than that. Not a wave, not a text, not even a glance. If Charles gave Harry 54 minutes of formal tea time tolerance, William gave him something colder, harder, and far more permanent: total silence. Forget reconciliation, forget a photo op, forget any hint of healing. For William, this wasn't a snub. This was a declaration. Insiders whispered that William was fully aware of Harry's return. How could he not be? The media circus surrounding Harry's charity tour made sure of that. But William didn't flinch. He had no interest in meetings, no time for symbolic hugs, and no appetite for staged forgiveness. Why? Because William's rage isn't performative. It's deeply personal. This isn't just about the Netflix series, the book, or the Oprah bombshells. This is about Kate. This is about a brother who stood by Harry through war, scandal, and heartbreak, only to see his wife, the future queen, dragged through the global mud by Harry and Meghan's megaphone. When Meghan accused unnamed royals of racism, the media did the math. When Harry claimed the palace ignored their cries for help, the narrative pointed inward. And when the press took aim at Catherine's parenting, appearance, and character, it wasn't just tabloid fodder. It was Harry's silence that made it sting. William didn't just lose a brother. He watched the man who stood by his side at Diana's memorial become a stranger who allowed his wife to be painted as cold, cruel, and complicit. So now, William protects his peace. And he protects Kate. Reports suggest the Prince of Wales hasn't spoken to Harry since the king's coronation. And even then, it was barely more than pleasantries. Some claim their last meaningful interaction may have been when Queen Elizabeth died. 2 years of royal events, 2 years of public moments, zero progress. And make no mistake, William's silence is intentional. There was no private dinner, no let's talk behind the scenes. Harry was in London for 4 days, and William's calendar was jam-packed with public engagements just miles away. Not even a moment carved out, not even a handshake. Because for William, the door isn't just closed, it's welded shut. Some royal watchers say William is drawing a line in the sand. You insult my wife, you insult my family, then you're out. Sources close to the palace revealed that William wasn't just avoiding Harry. He was furious that Charles even agreed to meet with him. One insider even joked they might have checked Harry for a wiretap at the door. It wasn't funny, it was serious. This is what happens when trust dies, not just between brothers, but between future kings. And here's where it gets even darker. If Charles is walking on eggshells, trying to hold the family together with gentle hands, William has no such patience. He's got a kingdom to prepare for, a sick father, a recovering wife, and a public that still believes in his quiet strength. The heir isn't playing games, and unlike Harry, William doesn't need to stage charity visits or donate symbolic millions. His power is real, his throne is coming, and he knows that giving Harry access again could mean another betrayal, another leak, another blow to the monarchy. So yes, Harry came to the UK, but William made it clear, this was no reunion, no redemption, no warm royal hug, just silence. And for Prince Harry, that silence may have been the loudest message of all. Because what's more painful than being insulted by your brother? Being ignored like you never existed. While Prince Harry wandered through chilly London streets, smiling for the cameras and trying to shake hands with a public that barely looked up, Meghan Markle stayed far away. Tucked behind the Montecito gates, she was running out of distractions, and more alarmingly, out of illusions. Because while Harry was fighting for relevance, Meghan's carefully crafted empire was falling apart. Let's talk about As Ever, a lifestyle brand once whispered about as Meghan's answer to Goop, positioned to take over pantries, wine racks, and bathroom shelves with curated, overpriced luxury. But instead of Gwyneth-style domination, Meghan delivered marmalade. Yes, marmalade. A $9 jar of orange goop, dressed up in Instagram filters and poetic nonsense like golden and fragrant with a lively zest that lingers and a refined sweetness. Translation: sticky, overpriced jam in a minimalist jar. The first As Ever product was not to sell out. The first sign that the royal sparkle Meghan banked on for years might finally be fading. And it didn't end there. Cookie dough for $14. Rosé wine bundles are priced at over $100. Shipping delays, overhyped Instagram drops, and a deeply awkward Bloomberg interview where Meghan insisted her marmalade was aimed at teenagers. Teenagers? With $9 pocket money? Who eats jam? This wasn't a brand. It was a fever dream, a grift disguised as elegance. Critics were merciless. British media called it scam jam. Industry insiders rolled their eyes. And the very people Meghan once expected to worship her, the loyal fans who defended her during the Oprah saga and screamed racism at the palace, began to go silent. Because no amount of soft lighting or scripted authenticity can hide a sinking ship. Behind the scenes, the numbers were even more brutal. As Ever failed to trend beyond Meghan's own bubble. Season 2 of With Love Meghan flopped harder than the first, barely scraping into the Netflix rankings. Globally, it didn't chart at all. Even in Australia, her last stronghold, viewers turned away. The dream of Duchess to billionaire CEO evaporating. And Meghan knew it. That's why she didn't follow Harry to the UK. Not because of bad press or fear of confrontation, but because she was busy damage controlling her failing empire. Working behind the scenes with her new PR team to salvage whatever crumbs were left. Spinning, strategizing, rebranding. But there's a limit to what spin can do. When you sell overpriced jam with royal fonts and fake scarcity, and the public doesn't buy it, that's not a PR crisis. That's a market rejection. And Meghan's entire brand, her lifestyle, her story, her curated woman of substance narrative, depends on the illusion of demand. That illusion is cracking. One insider described the launch as a financial faceplant. Another bluntly asked, who is buying this SHT? Spoiler, almost no one. And here's the deeper issue. Meghan's power never came from the products. It came from the myth. The myth that she was the modern Cinderella, that she walked away from royalty on her own terms, that she was building something bigger, better, and entirely her own. But now the illusion is being peeled back like a flimsy label on a jar of jam. Without the royal drama to drive clicks, the Hollywood interest has dried up. The fashion deals have gone quiet. Spotify pulled the plug. Netflix is barely hanging on. And without Harry by her side for the cameras, Meghan's PR machine looks rusted. No headlines, no buzz, no sold out in seconds. Just leftover marmalade sitting in warehouses and a website no one's checking anymore. It's not just a brand in decline. It's a story collapsing in real time. And Meghan Markle? She's not the mogul she wanted to be. She's now the face of a failed fantasy. And it's about to get worse, because her next move may involve something far more desperate than jam. It was a headline tailor-made for redemption. Prince Harry donates $1.1 million to children's charity. Photos were everywhere. Harry laughing with kids, clapping for nurses, posing next to giant novelty checks. On the surface, it looked like a heartfelt gesture, a royal return, a new chapter. But dig even slightly beneath that glossy exterior, and something else comes into focus. This wasn't compassion. It was a strategy, a staged photo op disguised as redemption. Because here's the part the headlines didn't scream. The $1.1 million donation wasn't a spontaneous act of kindness. It came just days after Harry's awkward 54-minute meeting with King Charles, right as Meghan's As Ever brand was falling flat, right as the public narrative around the Sussexes was spiraling downward. Coincidence? Doubtful. Observers couldn't help but notice the timing. One royal insider bluntly put it, that wasn't a donation. That was a down payment on public sympathy. Even more telling, the money didn't come directly from Harry's personal account. It came from profits generated through Invictus Games book sales, a tidy little tax write-off, not a royal-level sacrifice. In the US, where Harry now resides, such charitable giving often offsets income. Translation? This wasn't just benevolence. It was possibly accounting. But it gets deeper, because this entire UK trip, every handshake, every speech, every charity drop-in, felt like a meticulously scripted comeback tour. The Sussexes didn't just hire a new PR firm. They brought in one of the most aggressive brand reputation teams in Hollywood, known for crisis rehab and image re-engineering. This wasn't Harry returning to his roots. This was Harry auditioning for a second act. He wasn't visiting charities. He was performing compassion. He wasn't reconnecting with the public. He was selling relatability. And every smiling photo, every candid moment, filtered, packaged, weaponized. The British press didn't buy it. Social media didn't buy it. And most damning of all, the public didn't buy it. Polls showed minimal shift in opinion. Tabloid headlines weren't softened. In fact, many outlets noted how uncomfortable and forced the entire trip felt. This wasn't royal. It was reality TV with a charitable twist. And at the center of it all, a man trying to rebuild his image without confronting the wreckage he left behind. No public apology for Oprah. No acknowledgement of calling his family racist, cold, and cruel. No real accountability for Spare. Just a check, a smile, and a new PR playbook. But here's the twist. It almost worked, until someone noticed the pattern. Every time the Sussex brand is in trouble, every time a Netflix deal wobbles or a product launch crashes, every time Meghan faces backlash for overpriced jam or bizarre branding, Harry emerges, in uniform, at a charity, smiling, giving, a prince again, on his terms, on his stage, with just enough nostalgia to remind the world of what once was. It's not redemption, it's a rehabilitation theater. And behind the curtain, a team that knows exactly how to manipulate the optics, just long enough to close the next brand deal, renew the next contract, pitch the next product. But this time, something feels different. The old magic isn't working. The headlines aren't sticking. The crowds aren't cheering. Even some longtime Sussex supporters are going quiet. Because generosity without sincerity is just a strategy in disguise. And this staged act of compassion, it was met with silence, suspicion, and slow applause that never reached the ears of the one person Harry truly needed to impress, his brother. Because while Harry was shaking hands, William was watching, and not smiling. Prince Harry knows how to play the role. The perfectly timed walkabouts, the gentle hand on a shoulder, the camera-ready smiles, the quiet moments at children's hospitals. It's the kind of performance that once made him the most beloved royal of his generation, the People's Prince. But this time around, it felt different, hollow, like someone trying to replay the greatest hits without realizing the audience has already left the theater. Because make no mistake, this UK tour wasn't about duty. It was about optics. And the British public saw right through it. Every move Harry made during his 4-day visit screamed one thing. Look, I'm still royal. The body language, the subtle uniform cues, the carefully orchestrated appearances, all designed to simulate the exact role he walked away from. And the irony? He walked away loudly, screaming about freedom, about escape, about never being a working royal again. And yet, here he was, playing royal. But the difference this time? He wasn't doing it with the palace's blessing. He was doing it on his own terms, with no crown behind him. No queen, no royal communications team, no ceremonial gravitas. Just Harry, a freelance duke, trying to cosplay monarchy in a rented suit of influence. The tabloids were brutal. One headline called it the Love Me Do Tour, mocking his transparent attempt to rekindle public affection. Another pointed out the hypocrisy. The same man who called the British press toxic was now begging for their attention. And the photos? Oh, they came in droves. Harry is smiling in a hospital ward. Harry comforts a grieving mother. Harry waving to crowds, or rather, what should have been crowds. Because that's the cruel twist. There weren't many people there. The public didn't swarm like they once did. The spark was gone. The magic extinguished. And for someone who used to command the world's lens, that's not just sad, it's a strategic failure. Even his PR firm couldn't spin the silence. One reporter described Harry's charity event turnout as embarrassingly light. Another noted that photographers had to reposition to hide the empty spaces behind him. It wasn't a royal moment. It was a simulated spectacle, broadcast in high definition, but lacking the one thing that made it real: authenticity. And here's the thing about royal duties. They're not meant to be performative. They're not photo ops. They're decades of quiet, thankless work. There are thousands of engagements no one ever sees. There's ceremonies, traditions, sacrifices. What did Harry offer? It was a highlight reel, stitched together to suggest relevance. But the monarchy isn't an Instagram feed, and neither is legacy. That's the part Harry seems to have misunderstood. By staging his return as a quasi-royal figure, without actually being royal anymore, he created an uncanny valley of influence, too distant to be official, too desperate to be organic. And the result was awkward. Even palace insiders were reportedly unimpressed. One source close to Kensington Palace was quoted as saying, "You can't pick and choose the crown. You're either in or you're out." And Harry? He chose out. Now he's trying to sneak back in through the optics door, and finding it firmly locked. Worse still, his appearances raised uncomfortable questions. If this were just about charity, why the press photographers? Why the stylists, the lighting, the curated angles? Why the sudden wave of headlines praising Harry's compassion just days after his marmalade-selling wife disappeared from the narrative? Because this wasn't royal duty, it was royal mimicry, dressed up for social media, and rejected by the monarchy, the media, and increasingly, the masses. And if Harry thought this was step one in a grand return to favor, he miscalculated, badly, because the royal family wasn't watching these optics. They were watching something else, something far more damaging: the erosion of trust, the desperation behind the smile, and the growing sense that Harry is no longer playing for redemption, but for survival. There's an old saying, you don't bite the hand that feeds you. Prince Harry didn't just bite the hand, he wrote a memoir about it, filmed a Netflix documentary about it, then sat next to Oprah and lit the whole palace on fire. And now, standing in the ashes, he's wondering why no one will let him back in. Let's rewind. When Spare hit bookshelves, it wasn't just a memoir. It was a grenade, a 416-page detonation of family secrets, personal grudges, and bruised royal egos. The ghost-written confessions were shocking. Drug use, family fights, frostbitten royal appendages, and jealous brothers. But the real damage wasn't in the gossip, it was in the narrative. Harry painted himself as the unloved son, the spare to William's heir, raised in a system that ignored his pain and favored cold tradition over emotional support. Charles was framed as distant. Camilla, the queen consort, was branded the villain of the story. And Catherine, Meghan's ultimate silent rival, she was portrayed as passive-aggressive, icy, and complicit in the pain Meghan endured. It wasn't just a memoir, it was a declaration of war. And the Oprah interview? That was the first volley. That infamous sit-down shattered royal mystique in real time. The palace had barely caught its breath from Megxit when Harry and Meghan sat under that pergola and accused the royal family, indirectly but unmistakably, of racism, neglect, and cruelty. A senior royal allegedly questioned their unborn child's skin tone. Meghan said she felt unprotected, isolated, and driven to the edge. Harry nodded, confirmed. Co-signed. Broadcast it globally. It wasn't a moment. It was a movement against the monarchy. Then came the Netflix docuseries, Harry and Meghan, a slow-drip PR campaign disguised as a love story, filled with glossy visuals and soft piano music, and underneath it all, deep resentment. The pair slammed the British press, accused the firm of planting stories, and openly mocked royal protocols. For the monarchy, an institution built on discretion, tradition, and silence, it was the ultimate betrayal. And here's what Harry didn't calculate. Forgiveness has a shelf life. Charles may be a father, but he's also a king. Camilla may keep a stiff upper lip, but she has not forgotten being thrown under the media bus. Again. And William? He's never been more public about protecting his wife. After what Harry allowed, and arguably encouraged, Catherine to be dragged through, there's no path back. Sources close to the palace say the anger isn't just personal, it's institutional. Harry didn't just write a tell-all, he challenged the very foundation of the monarchy, and expected to be welcomed back with open arms. But that's not how it works. One royal aide put it bluntly, the bridges aren't just burned, they've been bulldozed, paved over, and replaced with no trespassing signs. The British public hasn't forgotten either. Polls show Harry and Meghan's approval ratings tanking. especially among older Brits who remember Princess Diana's quiet dignity. To them, Spare wasn't brave, it was petty. The Oprah interview wasn't honest, it was vindictive. And the Netflix series? Nothing more than a glossy hit piece. And yet, Harry thought one tea with the king, one check to a charity, and one smiling photo at a children's hospital would fix it all. But real wounds don't heal under studio lighting. Trust takes years to build, and only seconds to shatter. Harry shattered it again, and again, and again. Now he walks through London a man divided, loved by some, pitied by others, resented by many. No matter how many charity events he attends, or how many PR stunts he stages, the shadow of Spare follows him like a ghost. Because that book, and the headlines it sparked, didn't just burn bridges, it scorched the monarchy. And in return, the monarchy turned to stone. King Charles III was never supposed to rule in chaos. For decades, he waited, patiently, dutifully, sometimes bitterly, for his moment on the throne. He envisioned a reign of modernization, climate diplomacy, and dignified unity. But what he got instead was a storm. And at the center of that storm, his youngest son, the one he still can't stop trying to save. Because here's the painful truth. Charles isn't just king. He's a father still trying to clean up his son's mess. When Harry arrived in London for that awkward photoless visit, Charles granted him something no one else did. Time. 54 minutes behind closed doors at Clarence House. It wasn't much, but it was something. And for a monarch juggling cancer treatment, political instability, and global scrutiny, those 54 minutes carried layers of meaning. Some insiders called it mercy. Others called it weakness. But one thing was clear. Charles still wants to believe there's hope. Because no matter how many bombs Harry dropped, from calling Camilla dangerous to labeling Charles as emotionally distant and unfit to protect Meghan, the king still leaves a door slightly ajar. Why? Because deep down, Charles is haunted by guilt, haunted by Diana's death, haunted by the fractured childhoods of both William and Harry, and haunted by the realization that he may have helped create the very man now threatening to destroy his legacy. But fatherhood and monarchy don't mix easily. Every private instinct Charles has, to forgive, to reconcile, to welcome, is constantly at war with his public duty. The crown doesn't run on emotion. It runs on stability, optics, and unspoken codes. And Harry broke them all. So now Charles walks a diplomatic tightrope. He can't alienate Harry entirely, not without looking cruel, cold, or uncaring. But he also can't welcome him back, not without enraging William, disrespecting Camilla, and appearing weak before the British public. It's a lose-lose game, and Charles knows it. Reports suggest that behind palace walls, Charles has pleaded with William to consider softening, to meet Harry halfway. But William, scarred and unforgiving, has remained firm. One palace aide described it as an immovable object meeting an exhausted man, because Charles, for all his titles and medals, is tired. Tired of walking on eggshells. Tired of pretending there's a quick fix. Tired of the global narrative that he's either a villain or a doormat. And let's not forget the Camilla factor. Harry didn't just criticize her. He painted her as the master manipulator who traded secrets with the press to secure her crown. And Charles? He's never forgotten how long he fought to legitimize Camilla in the public's eyes. To see her reduced to a villain in his son's best-selling memoir wasn't just cruel, it was personal betrayal. Sources say Charles remains furious over that chapter in Spare, not because of the insult itself, but because Harry knew exactly what he was doing. He knew the impact, he knew the hurt, and he did it anyway. So why still see him? Why open the door even for 54 minutes? Because Charles isn't just thinking as a father. He's thinking as a strategist. He knows his reign is short. He knows the monarchy is evolving. And he knows that the institution cannot afford a permanent civil war with his son and daughter-in-law dominating the global media from California. If he slams the door on Harry, it only fuels the Sussex's victim narrative. But if he plays the patient, wounded father, he controls the optics. This is Charles's quiet genius. Emotional leverage through royal restraint. Let Harry rage. Let Meghan rebrand. Let the world watch. Charles will remain above it, present but guarded, open but strategic, the king of silence, the father of patience. The man is holding the family together by a thread, but threads fray, threads snap. And while Charles tries to maintain the illusion of balance, he's running out of rope. Because the next move won't be his, it'll be William's. If Charles is still clinging to hope, William has already burned the map. For the Prince of Wales, this is no longer about reconciliation. It's not about brothers. It's not even about Harry. It's about protection of his wife, his children, and the future throne. And after 5 years of chaos, betrayal, and media warfare, William has made it painfully clear. There is no way back. Not now. Not ever. Sources close to Kensington Palace say William's position has hardened beyond repair. The last serious conversation between the brothers, possibly over 2 years ago, maybe at the Queen's funeral, maybe not even then, Some insiders whisper they haven't spoken privately since before the Oprah interview. Think about that. Two brothers were raised side by side, shared a mother, shared a palace, shared the burden of grief, and now, not even a happy birthday text, not even a nod. Because for William, the betrayal was surgical and unforgivable. Harry didn't just criticize the institution, he went after William's wife, quiet, graceful Catherine, who has spent the last 2 decades dodging tabloids, playing the long game, and earning the love of the public without ever saying a controversial word. Meghan and Harry's interviews, especially Spare, painted her as distant, cold, and complicit in Meghan's suffering. For William, that was the final straw. You don't insult his wife, you don't drag her name through mud, and you don't expect to walk back into his life with a smile and a photo op. Behind closed doors, William is said to be furious that Charles even entertained Harry's recent visit. One royal aide reportedly joked they patted Harry down for a wire before he entered Clarence House. That may have been a joke, but the sentiment was deadly serious. Because what William sees in Harry now isn't a brother, it's a liability, a ticking or time bomb. A man who, even when silent, is dangerous. And let's not forget the symbolism. Harry and William were in the same city, less than 10 miles apart, for 4 days, and William didn't move an inch. He didn't offer a minute, not even a closed-door coffee behind palace walls. This wasn't an absence. This was rejection. Because William knows that Harry's presence brings only one thing: drama. He watched as Harry painted their family as racist, abusive, and negligent. He saw the global media devour those narratives. He saw the toll it took on his father, his stepmother, and especially Kate, who has faced relentless scrutiny from Meghan's online fanbase and media provocateurs ever since. To William, this is no longer personal, it's institutional. Harry threatens the image of the monarchy, Meghan even more so. Their brand thrives on chaos, on victimhood, on contrasting themselves with the cold, uncaring firm. William isn't going to hand them fresh content by appearing warm and forgiving. No, thank you. He's preparing to be king, and kings don't bend to scandal. Observers have noted that William's public appearances during Harry's visit were deliberate power moves, visiting a women's center with Kate, engaging with crowds, smiling, steady, grounded. While Harry posed solo with charity checks and awkward grins, William was projecting calm leadership, future monarch energy. And still, no mention of Harry, no acknowledgement, no comment. Because William knows something Harry doesn't. Sometimes silence is stronger than any statement, and the message was clear. You betrayed the family. You ridiculed the crown. You insulted my wife. You are not welcome. One insider close to William said bluntly, he doesn't trust Harry. He doesn't like him. He doesn't want him near his family. There's no secret summit, no heart-to-heart planned, no birthday reconciliation. The firm's new strategy? Let Harry exhaust himself. Let him keep trying. Let him fall. William won't stop him. He'll just stand back and never catch him. Because William's vow isn't shouted, it's not broadcast. It's quiet, composed, deadly. And it sounds like this: you're no longer my brother. You're no longer part of this family. And you will never, ever be allowed back. From a sprawling 14 million estate in Montecito, California, the illusion is still alive. Behind gated gardens and filtered Instagram posts, Meghan Markle continues to promote a fantasy of wellness, of womanhood, of curated authenticity. But beyond the soft focus and scented candles, something is breaking, and fast. Because if London felt cold, Montecito is starting to feel haunted. No royal backing, no new Netflix hits, no Spotify deal, no political run, no viral product launch, and now, no trust from the one institution that could have given them protection, purpose, and permanence. Prince Harry's UK trip was supposed to be a soft reset, a narrative pivot. But back in California, Meghan didn't join him. Not for support, not for family, not for optics. She stayed behind, watching the headlines from afar, while her as-ever empire quietly imploded. And the silence? It's deafening. Behind closed doors, insiders say the Sussexes are in strategy mode, not celebration. With dwindling media impact and declining public interest, the stakes have shifted. This isn't just about public perception anymore. This is about survival, financial, reputational, and emotional. Multiple reports now suggest they're scrambling behind the scenes. Meghan is allegedly courting new investors for A's ever after the Marmalade flop. Harry is rumored to be shopping new documentary ideas. But platforms aren't biting like they used to. The shine is off. The narrative is tired. Even their most loyal supporters are starting to ask, what exactly do they do now? Because the one story that made them interesting, royal rebels speaking truth to power, is over. And the royal family, they've gone quiet. No more responses. No more counter-narratives, just silence. The Sussexes are now fighting ghosts, and that silence has become their greatest threat. Without scandal to react to, without family conflict to exploit, without a crown to contrast themselves against, they are fading. Which is why the desperation is starting to show. the charity donations, the forced rebranding, the awkward smiles, the unconvincing jam launches. The Meghan interviews are filled with vague ambition and spiritual buzzwords. Harry's solo tours to prove he's still got it. The PR team leaks about reconciliation, future projects, and parenting priorities. But here's what no one's saying out loud. The empire is already burning. From the outside, it looks polished. From the inside, chaotic, panicked, paralyzed. Some sources say Meghan's long-term plan now revolves around establishing herself without Harry, a soft separation of brand identity. Others whispered that their next act might involve the children, using Archie and Lilibet for legacy angles and emotional leverage. And there's always the looming threat of another memoir, a sequel to Spare, the final grenade if everything else fails. But those are the moves of people who are running out of moves. And if Harry was hoping that one charity check and a cup of tea with his father would bring everything full circle, he's mistaken. Because the royal family has already played their final card. Total, complete indifference. No comment. No meeting with William, no photos, no leak, no protection, no revenge. Just quiet exile. And Meghan? She's watching the walls close in. As Ever didn't sell. The documentaries didn't chart. The sympathy has dried up. And with each failed pivot, the Montecito brand becomes less about power and more about parity. The end game isn't a dramatic scandal, it's irrelevance. And that may be the one thing they never prepared for. Because for Harry and Meghan, fame was never the goal, it was the currency. And without it, the empire doesn't just wobble, it vanishes.